Hello, this is Greg Galson with Green Graves, Galactic Graves, and Silverhead News to bring you the news that this balloon, the Chinese spy balloon, has been shot down. That is supposedly good news, but maybe it's a day late and a dollar short because I'm going to suggest to you there are several ways in which China was actually the winner, which they actually came out on top of this little fiasco. And first and foremost, I would say they came out on top because indeed they were able to cross the entirety of the United States of America, all the way across our continent, diagonally from northwest to southeast. And they got away with it. They invaded our sovereignty. But moreover, this was a demonstration that they could do that. And what could they do with that in the future? Apparently, this was not an EMP weapon itself, but it might have been a dry run. And it was probably definitely a data intelligence carrying mission. So they probably, one, got the success of the political success of challenging our sovereignty, which they're known for doing that, the nations all around them. Now they've reached out and done it across the face of the United States, a slap all the way across our face. Two, this was also a data gathering mission. They probably got cell phone data and things like that coming across the United States, around, especially over Maelstrom Air Force Base. See, from this altitude, 60,000 feet, you can actually pick up cell phone data that you can't get from a satellite in orbit, phone numbers, data transmitted. So you can get the cell phones from the commanders at the military base on the grounds, the troops. You can find out who they are, what they're doing, and very specific intel. You can get other intel from the photographic imagery that you can get at that much lower altitude. You're like 100 times closer to the Earth in a balloon like that than you are from orbit in space. And you get other angle views and things, a lot of multiplier effects, less atmospheric distortion, although you still have a fair bit from a balloon. There's tons of benefits to being at that altitude. That's one reason you do it with a balloon. It's great data in gathering, intelligence gathering platform. But as an EMP platform, they've essentially proven that they can fly over the United States. And even if we get coy to them or get more proactive the next time, an EMP does not require a direct precision delivery. It covers a large area. If they can just get over the Canadian border into the United States a little bit on the northern side, they could EMP our missile fields at the very least. So I'm going to show you how they can actually launch EMP attacks from balloons and still get our coastlines without even crossing the United States from operations like what I was doing 23 years ago. I'll show you that too toward the end. So hang on here, guys. But there are several wins. And finally, maybe the last win was just a win of getting us to spend a whole lot of our defense money for a little bit of theirs. This balloon probably, a balloon like that probably cost $100,000 maybe for the balloon itself. Yeah, the balloons do have some expense. I used to spend $10,000 buying similar balloons back in 25 years ago. Yeah, about 10 grand. This one's a little bit bigger, maybe. It might have cost a little bit more. It's probably made from heavier duty materials because it's one of those ultra long duration balloons like a ULDB. So I'm sure it's more expensive. They had some avionics on board. What's it cost to buy a sensor suite and to set that stuff up? You had some solar arrays. Those are relatively cheap, but still they cost something. The engineering to integrate it all together would have been something, but the engineers do work cheaper in China than they do here in the United States. But all in all, I would say their whole program cost less than $1 million. The missile that shot it down by itself probably exceeded that in cost. And the entire monitoring effort and tracking effort, we had all kind of military aircraft tracking this thing. And I had a source from South Carolina texted me telling me this was going over and how they shut down the airspace in his region right before this, the airports and everything, and how there were just a ton of military fighter jets in the area. And I've also got reports from other people of military fighter jets flying, well underneath this thing, kind of tracking it. And I've had my friend Lee Wilberger monitoring KC-135s and other aircraft tracking this thing as it's crossed the entirety of the United States. So there's been quite a few millions of dollars expended in the tracking of this. And at the tops, they might have spent $1 million from China's standpoint, putting it together and launching it. Probably not even that. It's probably a few hundred thousand. Probably a few hundred thousand. Maybe as cheap as $200,000 or $300,000 total cost. Yeah, sad. I laugh facetiously. It's a sad indictment and multiplier effects of how they can get us to exercise our systems and spend our money of some little effort on their end. But at the bottom line, this is a slap at the United States. It's a slap at our sovereignty to be overfly us at that low altitude across the entirety of the United States. It shows ineptitude, seemingly on our side. Although there's some, oh, well, we shouldn't shoot it down, blah, blah, blah. And now we got it shot down, but it's over the ocean. So when it hit the ocean, salt water really just corrodes electronics like instantly real bad. I know I've dropped avionics in the ocean on some of my balloon flights, and then you pull that stuff out. Oh my God, it looks rough. It's got salt corroded all over it. It's salt is awful on electronics, avionics. This I know because this I've seen. Been there, done that. And I'll show you some more from that in a minute. So guys, the bottom line is this could be an EMP threat to us still. Not this balloon, but the fact that they flew it over. Now, the fact that China claimed the balloon early on suggested that this particular, balloon did not have an EMP device on it. Some people talk about, well, we could sniff it and see if there's radiation from some of our aircraft. That's possible if they don't shield it. But these balloons are capable of carrying up to 1.2 tons. Yeah, 1.2 tons at 60,000 feet, as designed by the Chinese organization known as AIR. It's Aeronautical Information Research Institute. Yeah, part of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, but in China, everything's part of the CCP. It's all part of the government, part of the military. It's all one. So don't get too caught up in separating these things out. So guys, there's all kind of dual use stuff in China between science and military. That's typical. Their space station is the same. Their space station is a military organization developed project. So just bear these things in mind. Where the reason we did not go in with China on our space station, the reason we didn't invite them on board is because their space program was military. We required ours to be non-military. I don't have people arguing that, but whatever. Huh? Let's get back to the main topic here. So this balloon could have well been a dry run. It was a good indicator that, hey, we could fly across the United States if we so choose. We could put a string of these across the United States and then just detonate them all at once. Americans probably won't do anything. But if they do, and if we're all on the verge of war anyway, what's it going to matter? If we're declaring war and this is our initial act, does it matter? So, but I'm going to show you how they can still do it, even if we're determined to shoot them down. And don't tell me they don't know this, because they've got ships. They've already put out videos of launching rockets from ships and other things. They know about launching balloons from ships. They know all these things. I've done it, and I'm going to show you what it's going to look like. First, I'm going to start with the range of these devices. I'm going to go into share. We're going to look at a file that I've shown a few times. I still get people asking me questions. I get people texting me questions about things that I cover in my videos. People supposedly watch my videos. It's things that I will repeat over and over and over. And people ask me about those things like they haven't seen it. So I hope y'all can bear with me if I'm regurgitating a little bit here. There will be some new people to this video, but this, I'm going to play in a little different perspective this time. So hang on, guys. We'll share screen, and we're going to go over here to this chart. And here it is. This is the range of an electromagnetic pulse, a high altitude electromagnetic pulse, known as a HEMP, as a function of the altitude of detonation. And this inner circle is at the design altitude for which AIR had already tested this class balloon with a 1.2 ton payload. Oh yeah, 1.2 ton payload. What I was going to say about that was you can put all kind of mass shielding around a nuclear bomb or device in a payload like that so that you can't see the radiation, stop the radiation. So the radiation won't be sniffed. And then you could just drop it out, the radiation shielding out as ballast. It could be like a bowl, the bomb is sitting in it, but connected to a strut above it. And then you got a little cutter device that when you decide to detonate, because you don't want shielding when you want to make a lot of EMP, you just cut the shield off and it drops. Woo! Suddenly you just dropped a bunch of ballast and your balloon's going to shoot up to a higher altitude. Yeah, that shield is a ballast. Then your balloon will go, if it was operating at 60,000 feet, then it will pop up maybe to 30,000 feet. That's what this thing was designed for. Or cut off a few solar rays with explosive bolts. Different ways to get there, to get the ballast up, off, to get the altitude up. But I think the shielding would be in one way. And another thing, they could actually put that nuclear device on a rocket, like I have launched from balloons, and I've shown out in videos on my channels. And they could use that to get even up here or higher. 100 kilometers is what I was aiming. I was aiming to hit over 100 kilometers with some good margin. With the rocket, I can show y'all in a little bit. Now, the lowest Earth orbit, if you want to do a fractional orbital bombardment and you don't plan to orbit the Earth around and around for some time, would be about 200 kilometers. Our space station, International Space Station, is at, and most satellites like to be somewhere around 400 kilometers, 240 miles, so they can lessen the drag of the atmosphere upon them. You get up over 700 miles, you're in the Van Allen belt, so you get radiation issues with your electronics. But look, see, from this station orbit, you cover almost the entire continental United States, most of Canada, and most of Mexico. Okay, Maine gets out of it. But here, so you're marginal over here on the East Coast. This is one area they want to hit. This is one reason you'd like to have a few separate devices hitting in other areas, because they really do want to hit this area, and the balloon may be the ideal way. Dr. Peter Pry actually mentioned hitting the Northeast with a balloon. And the reason he mentioned that is because 70% of the energy in the country, electrical energy, is actually produced right here within this region. This is the region that also has our financial hubs. A lot of our information center activity, like what's going on in New York, comes out of this region. Of course, the command and control for our military and our political institutions out of Washington, D.C. So an enemy would definitely like to strike this megaplex right here of cities. So what a balloon might be the better way to do it, especially if you're operating a satellite and you want to put an intense field right here. Of course, they could do it with the warhead also coming in from higher up. There's many ways to do this, guys. But Dr. Pry taught us that the enemy in an attack, their doctrine is to use a multi-pronged approach. So what I would submit is this. What the Chinese showed is they had a balloon coming up, and follow my cursor. It came in right around here, went up over Canada, and came down in over Montana. And before we knew it, it was over our military bases, like a maelstrom. But the area was that from a circle this wide, they could have taken out all of our strategic bomber sites and missile fields up here in this area with one EMP, with a very intense EMP, mind you, being that close. These EMP super weapons are designed for detonation at 400 kilometers up, and it said that they will put out 200,000 volts per meter on the lines they hit, whereas the hardening standard used to be 50,000 volts per meter. It's been increased to 85,000 volts per meter because it's probably about as far as you can go. So this 200,000 volts per meter is going to fry even hardened electronics, hardened avionics, hardened communication systems. This is why I'm telling you, we're not going to be talking to our submarines out at sea if they EMP the United States in the right kind of way and get the field intensities where they want them. So having something here, down here, even over here, yeah, I could see that, guys. So what would happen is if they put a balloon following the same trajectory as last time and just detonated it over Montana, somewhere over Montana, North Dakota, they wouldn't have to have other balloons coming in the same direction to get these. They could launch balloons off of a ship right offshore. It's international waters, 12.5 miles offshore. You can be in a ship and launch a balloon. Oh, we're just launching a weather balloon. Yeah, what are you going to do? It's just a balloon. Before you got time to react to it, that thing is up in the atmosphere and sets off an EMP. And it could take out the entire Washington, D.C., New York area. Because look, see how wide that is? I mean, 12 miles offshore is, I mean, to really get perspective, I'd have to put the cursor almost on the shore here. You know, these areas, I mean, you can be like basically right here and set it off. You can be right here. You can be in the water right here and set it off and get all this area. Boston to Washington, D.C. with one device. Launch from a balloon from a boat offshore. Now, the winds do blow. Most of the other winds blow west to east, but in the summertime, you get a turnaround where it can come the other way. Or in the spring and fall, you get the doldrum at the turnaround points itself, in which you can just go straight up and detonate it. So those are all good seasons to launch balloons. Any of them would work. And if you want to get inland a little bit, you want to wait after the turnaround in the summer flow. Same goes with, that's at least the flows we observed down here. We're operating in the Gulf of Mexico and down in here. So if you want to get inland, go down here. So you can put another boat here off where our submarine bases are. Another one down here off this submarine base is, you know, some around here around San Diego, where you got all these naval bases, something up here in Seattle. You put a few boats offshore and you can create a number of these circles over the coastal areas of the United States. Most people live on the coast anyway. The most is on the coast. So this is how you could have very powerful directed EMP fields wiping out critical hardened infrastructure where our military bases matter, where the command and control matters. And they can have a general EMP just cleaning out the whole country from a satellite. If they were going to hit us, I've said many times, and it was what Dr. Peter Pry taught us from the doctrine of all these other countries that want to hit us, is that they would hit us with a multi-pronged attack if they hit us. And the first thing would be EMP, that the Russians don't even consider an EMP attack to be a nuclear attack. They consider it electronic warfare. Watch my old videos with Dr. Pry. So that's what you need to know. They consider, and it's also by the Muslims considered to be Sharia compliant, I guess, because they don't kill people directly. So this is an attack you can expect if we get into war, even with Iran. Iran's Revolutionary Guard commander years ago said that he had 20 sleeper cells in America that were ready to take out 20 of our most critical power grid substations when he was told that there was only 9 he had to hit. He said, I got 20 covered with my sleeper cells. It's already there. So there would be direct attack. There would be hacking attacks. You could have balloons. You could have other smaller missiles launched out of the Gulf of Mexico or the Caribbean Sea, launching up here, doing EMPs on the East Coast and through the middle of the country. You could have stuff coming off the West Coast, and you could have intercontinental ballistic missiles coming in behind that, or hypersonic missiles. Hypersonic missiles can fly off the coast really fast and then zoom up high in the atmosphere and detonate. There's several ways that these things could be done. So don't think we're out of the woods, guys. This balloon has just gave them a demonstration of what they can do, and it's not pretty. So that's why I say I think they won. This thing crossed the entirety of the United States, down through Tennessee, into North Carolina, and out through South Carolina, apparently off Myrtle Beach. Today it was shot down. Holy smoke. One they could have shot it down is over Montana. There's very few people in Montana. The only place in the United States that's got less people per square mile in Montana is Alaska. And I live there. I've been through Montana. Montana is beautiful. I always thought Montana was the most beautiful, at least the Bitterroot Mountain area is the most beautiful area in the United States, at least in the contiguous 48 states. I think Alaska is the most beautiful state. But that's just me. Alaska is gorgeous. All right, so just to give you a quick background, I will talk more about EMP in general in the future, because there's a lot to know about its effects that I can teach you. But this is what I was doing. This was my rocket launched from the back of the Mr. Offshore, 200 miles out in the Gulf of Mexico, lofted by a balloon. This is another project I did a couple of years earlier in 1998. That little tuft of hair there is me. This is the chief engineer, Mike Smith, of the balloon manufacturing company, Aerostar. This is my balloon launch return vehicle, remote powered rocket. This is Glenn May. Glenn May was quite the rocketeer young man, ex-Marine. He died in the cold flow test of Spaceship Two. He was a very, very space-oriented guy. He loved rockets, and he lived by them. He died by them, unfortunately. So this is more of that. This is Tim Pickens. He is quite the rocket developer. He knows how to build things better than anybody I've ever met in my life. This man is nothing short of amazing. He spun a company off from our ventures called Orion Propulsion, sold it to Dynetics. This is our balloon launch off the deck. This was a joint mission my club did with NASA. They gave us a boat to ride on, and we did the balloon and rocket. This is our Space Launch 2 Raccoon balloon and rocket off the deck of the Pearl River barge. So I just showed you 3 different pictures of balloons. I actually did another one for Jet Propulsion Laboratory. That's that rocket. So just to give you guys, we did the stuff out of garages, guys. It's 2 different garages that we were working out of on a shoestring budget. 25 years ago, guys. You saw it 98, 25 years ago. We started that program in 94. Anyway, let me stop this thing here. Stop this share. Halo. Reason I showed you those charts again was just give you the idea. Yeah, you can go offshore, and even if the wind is blowing away from shore, you're still going to have enough EMP range that you're going to hit way inland on shore. You will take out the coastal systems with the EMP. So even from a balloon, so a balloon is a valid platform. And if you launch it offshore, you probably won't even put no shielding around your pig, around your nuclear device, because at that point, almost enough time you're going to set it off probably as soon as it's altitude. They probably don't have time to mobilize to it. And if they did, to make the decision to shoot it down or what they would do with it. And if they decide to do that and they start shooting at it, your balloon, you just hit the button and detonate it. So, yeah, I have a hard time believing it would stop that or it could stop that, to be honest. And once the balloon reaches over 60,000 feet, it's exceedingly hard to take it down with an aircraft. Now, the one they shot down had dropped altitude quite a lot today when they took it down today. All right, I'm going to show you a couple other things just once more to give you a flavor for this. Oh yeah, let's see. I get the share screen button. I forget to do that sometimes. I think because I open a screen, y'all can see it. Yeah, you don't hit that button. Stop recording. Yeah, Here we go. There it is, saying it was shot down. There it is where it's shot down. That's after it was hit. So what happens is the balloon deflated and basically made a streamer like a parachute uninflated. It will slow the descent down a fair bit, but it won't be free fall. It won't be as good as a parachute, but it will slow the descent down. If they fish this thing out of the water, see, a lot of stuff would sink when you hit the water. So they're going to lose some of that stuff. It's going to sink, probably, maybe. But if it don't, it's going to be ate up with salt water. Oh, look at this lovely guy. Oh, my God. CIA Director John Brennan. Oh, don't shoot it down. That's impulsive. This guy is a state of deep like nobody I've ever seen. All right. And now, but, that attitude is going to have blowback. So there's going to be political dimensions in this, and it's not over because the Republicans are tying this into the border. Says, well, basically, Biden don't respect our sovereignty. He just lets anybody cross us. So there's going to be a lot of, whether you agree with that or not, I'm just telling you, there's going to be a lot of political blowback to come over this thing. Of course, and China has got other means of hitting us to give us a multi-pronged attack if we should be at war with them. This article mostly focuses on what would happen with our battleships and aircraft carriers. But let me go over here and play you some videos real quick. Let's see, I got to start this out the right spot. I'm going to call it over to the next video.
Before Jobber, it was.
All right. Got here an ad, even though the channel is not monetized, and that's something.
Late nights in the office, sending quotes, sending emails, and the meet.
All right. This is my rocket. I say my rocket. I was president and program manager of this, the High Altitude Research Corporation. Tim was one of our officers. So he had stock in this too. This is the Mr. Offshore, 200 miles out in the Gulf of Mexico. The rocket is being held by a tether right now, getting ready to be released. The balloon is holding it up, and the tether is holding it down. So it's about to be launched. So we got to do is cut the tether at this point. This rocket is 17.5 foot long, weighed a couple of 100 pounds. All this packaged here together, rocket and the gondola was probably about 300-400 pounds. Way shy of the 1.2 tons. This rocket could have hit over 100 kilometers. You can put something like this under a balloon like that. You can shield it where nobody can see what it is and put a nuke right on top of it. If you want to get a little extra altitude, but you may not want extra altitude. You may want that concentrated EMP right there because you've got ICBMs and satellites with fractional orbital bombardment devices in them. That's going to give you that higher altitude and greater area coverage in the United States. They'd probably hit us with 3 or 4 of those, and a few things like this. Yeah, we would be hitting all kind of EMP devices in an attack like that. Okay, look at this. I believe that was Glenn May, and I think we had Mike Smith. Welcome back. Bill Brown is the one saying we have liftoff. Had Bill Brown on my Galactic Rex channel. There you go. And I'll show you the firing of this rocket at altitude. At altitude, the sky's black. You see the blackness of space. The data downlinks had that from the rocket too. That's a rocket going off to the left. So there you are, guys. We had these are the kind of operations I was doing off a shoestring budget out of garages 25 years ago. That was actually 23 years ago on this mission. The last one of those missions was 23 years ago. Shoestring budgets out of the Gulf of Mexico. China could also go in there. It's international waters. Iran. The Koreans had a boat called the Chong Gang running. Oh, you know what? I need to show you all that. Why don't I show you all that real quick, just to paint further the dimensions of what can be done and why you need to be worried about grid defense in this country. I am going to do that. Let's stop the share. It was on. Halo. Open a new share screen. Probably went black. Just realized because I was switching things around. Share again. I'm going to go back to this presentation. And I'm going to go up to find the Chong Gang. I forget which direction that boat is at in this scheme of charts. So forgive me. You open your eyes real fast and read all these charts. This is a whole EMP presentation. I'm hunting a boat. There it is. The Chong Gang. It was found to be running around with these missiles inside of ISO shipping containers in the bottom in the hold of the Chong Gang in the Gulf of Mexico in July of 2013. It's believed it was also there in April in those waters. They had 10,000 tons of sugar covering this up. They'd hoped to get around the Cape, the Horn down there in South America to go into the Pacific, but the weather got too rough and they couldn't exit that way, so they had to go through the Panama Canal. So they tried to hide this under 10,000 tons of sugar. Well, they got caught. They got inspected and they got caught. This is a North Korean ship. So it was probably there on the same day that the Metcalf station got attacked, which you might have heard about the direct rifle attacks against the Metcalf substation in San Jose, California, which also happened. That attack happened on the 16th of April, 2013. That ship was probably out at sea at that same point in time. And what else happened on the 16th of April, 2013? The North Korean KMS 3-2 satellite had its first orbit over Washington, D.C. on the 16th. So they could have detonated an EMP device there while they attacked the substation and had attacks coming from that ship out in the ocean. So they may have had a multi-pronged dry run on the 16th of April, 2013. That's why I was pointing this. So they may have already started, and as we all know, that's 10 years ago. North Korea has developed a lot of nuclear capabilities since then. And those smaller nukes they were firing were an ideal size for an EMP. Okay, enough said. I want to thank y'all for watching. Oh, yeah, by the way, check with prepwithgreg.com. You need you some long-term food storage. You need some long-term deals, guys. We got a special there on long-term food storage. Prepwithgreg.com. Link below. We got like $200 off, plus you can get a whole bunch of other prepping supplies flying for free. If you don't want the long-term buckets of food, go click up my Patriot Supply logo and look at all their other prepping supplies. I mean, if you're not prepping now, I don't know what you're doing. But also go to the store, buy the beans, buy the rice, learn how to wildcraft. I've got videos on that. Check them out, how to purify and sanitize water. And I got videos in my playlist on nuclear survival. You really need to watch those. You won't find any more information anywhere than those videos. So my friends, thank y'all for watching. And with that, I'm going to say, Greg out.